Hey, good afternoon everyone. We are going to be going over February's rescue training. This will encompass the tripod, or the Terradaptor as we call it. We'll see a lot of tripods out in units, but ours is a Terradaptor. Many have seen it. It can be a quad pod. We can use it in many different ways. It's very versatile, but today we'll just be talking about the tripod aspect of it. In the future we will be talking about the quad pod. But with Cordon's help today, we're going to do some of the basic training for February for you guys to go over. So switch this around, and right now we have it somewhat set up already. We were going over a bunch of stuff, so we'll look at some of the pieces real quick from the feet on up. We should be getting new feet, but remember when you're setting this up, start from the beginning, is these claws. You may have to adjust them. You can adjust them here. Or if you think about it before you set it up, they want to be pointed in, right? Be careful on regular cement or something that's really smooth, because they're not going to dig in very well. But they're supposed to help dig into wherever it is. But again, hopefully we get the new feet that will help that out. Talking about here, we'll look at the sleeves of the legs. So with these sleeves, they're numbered, and they have letters in them. So we're always going to want to coordinate together when we are putting this together. We always want to put it together on the ground. This is the easiest and best way to put it together, is put it down, put the head, and start constructing it on the ground. Then you can raise it. So there are different letters and numbers. Cordon, if you can point out on this particular one, we want to see what 4Y would be. So if you look close, 4. There's a 4, and that's a Y. So when you're putting this together, when you're communicating with somebody else, make sure you communicate what that is. Now, on this regular tripod, your angles of your head will be a little bit different, and we'll show you that in a minute. But put all your legs equally in length. If you can help it, stagger the amount of space from the bottom and the top of the sleeve. You don't want them all one way if you can help it. It is stronger if it's at the bottom. But try to make that sleeve that goes in the middle, if you can make it equal distance. I know in the past we've did more at the top exposed, and then as we lift it, we raise the bottom legs, but the manufacturer actually says is the strength is further down below. So just try to make equal amounts of space when you're constructing it, but it can be constructed at its furthest on each side. Okay, so that's a quick summation. It will go about 10 feet high on the tripod and the quad pod with our extensions, and it's about at 4 feet, this thing has about a rating of 11,000 pounds, and then about 10 feet it drops to about 7,800 pounds. So as you see, as it gets higher up, it gets a little bit weaker, but it should handle everything that we needed to handle. But it's just a piece of equipment, so taking care of it. If you want to see some of the numbers, they're here, but actually the manufacturing book, our book that comes with it, actually has the numbers from the manufacturer also. So shouldn't have to worry about exceeding any of that, but just for informational purposes only. Okay, so let's talk about the head. When you're constructing this, you want to get that head out. Let's also talk about how they're offset. So Cordon, can you show us how they're pushed, point to each one, the right one and the left one? So if you can see that one that's there, if you see that one's lower, and then the other one, Cordon, and see how that's shifted, and when we call offset, see how the head is offset. That is important if your two angles are going to cross each other. So if they were going to go this way and you had another one going this way, by being offset they won't hit each other, if that makes sense. If these tubes had to extend past the top and they had to crisscross, they wouldn't hit each other. So it doesn't matter if they're not offset, if it's in this position, but remember, if these tubes have to extend out, you do have to offset these pieces. And you can see the piece, how it's offset, because the way it's constructed, the hole is on one side and the other one's on the other side, or the fitting. Whereas the centerpiece is always going to be just straight down the middle. If you can see that, see how that went straight down the middle? It's not offset. All right, another thing we need to look at when we're building this is we want to put our system on here before we raise it. Another thing I want to do, that before you raise this thing, before it goes anywhere, I want to put the lashing on there. So Cordon, can you put the lashing on first? We always want to lash the head. This is just to give us a precaution so that the system doesn't fall over the edge. The wind blows it, it gets caught on something, it goes over the edge. We want to put this, because eventually these lashings on these heads need to be to help to secure the tripod back to an anchor. But always put one on right away, so that way when we go to raise this, we can control this. So the second thing we'd like to do is, this is our quick bag, our new bag. If you were going to put this on there, you were just going to hook it in to one of the pins. So hook that up for us, Cordon. So I don't want, I can go ahead and take that out. Cordon, let's put it on this one. Preferably, I don't want the open face part of the carabiner. Just pull out the pin if you have to. There you go. So see how that's the open face? So go ahead there. So if I can help it, even though these are triple locked, I don't want that rubbing up against this other one. So having that open and free, if that makes sense. Just don't want it rubbing up there. It should not open, even though, because it's a 3-point of contact to open it. Just don't want it rubbing up there. These are both rated, so you can use either one. This one has a little bit more give, so you could put both lines on there. Also, the manufacturer says these holes here are rated holes. So if you needed to use a carabiner on there, you could, but only these holes. The holes these pins go in are not rated. They're only rated for the pins. These are rated anchor points, so you can use that as an anchor point if you needed to. Just to secure, if that didn't work, you lost a pin, you can put a carabiner through there, or lashing and use that as an anchor point. Again, remember, lash these. I would put a couple lashings on this because you really want to secure this thing back. So from there, again, assemble all your stuff here, put your system here, put a rope through it, so you already have a rope in there, and then we're going to raise this. So let me, hold on a second, Cordon, I'll help you raise that. So always use at least 2 people to raise this, preferably. Again, this would be tied back to somewhere so we don't lose this. So what I would do is, before I would lift this, I would go back and would make it loose and tie it off to some anchor point, so that way it just knows that the wind catches it, so it trips, it's not going to fall on the side. So I'm going to put my foot there, go ahead and put it on. There you go. So slide it back your way a little bit. Slide it back your way a little bit. Good. So he's going to make sure it's footed right. Go ahead and take that out. Good. So right now it's probably about maybe 7 feet, 8 feet. We probably can go up another 2 feet, but just for demonstration. So once he gets those legs secure and out and we expand it, we're going to put we want to put this so it doesn't hobble. So this is important. You'll see that out in the tripods, they have a chain. So the key is, once you kind of get where you need to get, you're going to put the loop through there, put it on one side, run it through there, just run the rope through there. It's going to go all the way through the other side. You create that loop, it's going to go there, and then it's just a prussix, and you're just pulling back on your tighten it. We notice that it's one long rope and you're going to use one shorter rope. So this one goes here and goes there, and it's just tightened up. And all you're going to do is put this side, and then this is your tightening point on the other side. So what that does is that makes it so the tripod doesn't want to flare out once you put some weight on that, right? Once you put weight on that, that tripod's going to want to go out, and you don't want to do that. So by putting those hobble lines in, that keeps that triangle in there, and it helps it keep from bowing out. So if you can help it, you don't want, remember this is your hole here, you want to be as center as possible. Let me explain something. So these legs are all equal in length right now, but when you do that on this particular Terradaptor, if you look at this, and let's see, it's hard to see. If you see the head look like it's cockeyed. So the head look like it's cockeyed, which is fine. It's just adjusting the angle of the head. And if you notice, that one's one pin off. That one's, the two side ones are the pin below. So you're creating an angle on this so it can be equal. If that makes sense. If I use the same pinholes on all of them, this leg here will be more straight up, and it won't be an equilateral triangle. It'll be off. So you do have to tilt that head one or make the leg longer, but remember, it's still fine the way it is. It's going to be off center just a little bit, but not that much at all. So Cordon, can you show us when you pull and put some pressure on that? When we have that load, it should come straight down, and it wants to stay. We want that load and that line to go, and it needs to be within that triangle. Also, our rate of pull, when we pull down, we want it also within that triangle. We can do change of direction with an anchoring point, a carabiner, and pull. That rope may come down, may go a change of direction, and then we can pull, but we don't want to pull from the side. So say we're pulling from the side, pull that a little bit, Cordon, just not pull it too hard. But I want you to just show how, if you were pulling at an angle, don't pull. So see how that pulls a little bit, see how that wants to move. So that's why the lashings off the head are important to go across. And then if we can, we want to lash the feet in both directions. So whether it's being pulled or pushed, if we can compensate for both of those, then we're not worrying about it tipping or hopefully collapsing against a piece of hardware. It could still give, but using this quick response deployment bag, and maybe not all this comes up here. Maybe it's just the collection plate, and then you have a double pulley or, you know, carabiner with a single pulley. You know, you probably need to have at least two pulleys up there for a safety line and a regular line, and then you pull the rest of this off. So remember, there's two MPDs in our bag. One can go out to the safety line, one can go to the main line. Again, lashes at the top. Remember, these pins always have to be secured over it. Let's see, and the feet, we want them dug into the right place. These pins up there need to be all the way through. Be careful we don't lose those on the decking. And then this has to be all the way pushed in. So quad pod, we'll end up talking about the quad pod later in another video. Just want to talk about the tripod. We'll end up getting more advanced on this tripod. We'll end up doing a few different scenarios with it, but just want to initially put this together for the tripod. Want everybody to go through it, put a system on it, a 3-to-1, and see how it works, see where your pull is, making sure it's stable and that you're equal on heights. So basic February training, we'll get a little bit more into depth in this, but please go over this with your crews, set it up, put a system on it, see the different angles, the different heights, and then the change of direction. So hope everybody enjoys.